All right, let's go to the international panel now. Sky News contributor Kosha Garda, and joining us from Ukraine, former Labor MP Michael Danby. Well, welcome to you both, Michael. Given you're in Kyiv, the war's been going on, of course, for 2 years now. 31,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed. Many of them we know before the war, just ordinary people, certainly not military trained, at least back then. How does it feel, or what are you being told on the ground in Ukraine?
It's 1942 Britain here, Peter. People are weary but resolute. 50 million Ukrainians want to live like us. They want to live like Europeans in an open and democratic society. And what we need to do is for Europe and America to send artillery ammunition so they can hold the Russians out and not be overrun. And this is the cheapest, the most pragmatic and the most ethical way of the world not living under the influence of Iran, Russia, China and North Korea. If we want to resist a world like that, and it therefore affects Australia, give the Ukrainians the wherewithal. They've got the biggest army in Europe and they will defend themselves and preserve themselves to a day where the Russians give up their aggression.
And the alternative is that Russia wins, and that in itself is unthinkable. Kosha, what's this with the Monash University lecturer who has access, of course, to students, glorifying the October 7 atrocities? How on earth is this lecturer still in a job?
You know, it's interesting to watch whether it's this example here, Peta, or versions of it that we saw take place at Harvard, Penn, MIT back in the States, where there's this infighting almost happening in these institutions that have traditionally been of the left, and they have the stitched together sort of patchwork coalition of people of that left. And right now you're seeing a little bit of that mess spilling out where that coalition of the fringes is fraying, and you're seeing people that are sympathetic to one cause wielding a lot of power in these institutions, and that's why, you know, these folks can speak in this way unabashedly and without fear of consequence. I think, as you saw with Harvard and all of that, it's a different system there. You've got billionaire donors that wield a lot of power, like Bill Ackman. You don't quite have that here with Monash, but there might be other measures of pressure that might be brought to them. In this day and age of social media, everything he said is out in the open, and so people can see it, and hopefully some type of pressure campaign mounts.
Hey, Michael, good news. Sweden's now been cleared. I think Hungary was the last state to vote in this, cleared to join NATO. What can we expect, do you think, in terms of Russian retaliation?
Well, the Russians can't do much. Sweden, like Finland, is a very well-armed society. I don't think they have to get to 2%. I think they're already there. The Russians can huff and puff, but the question is will the Ukrainians be overrun with the huge preponderance of Russian ammunition? In my view, Peter, the fate of the world hangs on what happens in the American Congress in the next few weeks, whether they vote for that aid package for Ukraine or not. And I think Putin has waged a very successful full-spectrum warfare, using information warfare in the United States to deny the Ukrainians the military aid that will make up for the fact that he hasn't been able to win on the battlefield.
We'll go to the United States now. Kosha, Nikki Haley, of course, losing the primary in her home state of South Carolina. She was crowing about the fact that she got 40% of the vote. But let's remember, in South Carolina, anyone, even a Democrat, can vote in Republican primary. I mean, it could have been a whole lot of anti-Trumper types voting just to keep her alive. I'm told she's still got some money coming in. Is she going to keep going? What do you think?
She seems to be on that path of sticking with it. It is highly unusual because a couple of records were set in South Carolina. One is that Trump actually received double the number of votes in a presidential primary in history in any state. And so that's, you know, a counter dynamic to the point she's raising. And then the other point is the margin of defeat by a home state candidate. This was the highest record, 20 points. It's never happened to somebody who was the governor of that state. So, you know, that just puts it in sharper contrast, the fact that she is sticking with it. One of her biggest donors, the Koch brothers fundraising group, did declare that while they support her personally, thought she was the better candidate, they've decided she has no more path to victory and they've pulled out. I don't know if that's one of several dominoes to fall, because once the funding dries up, it'll be harder for her. But I think, you know, she's doing it for any number of reasons, to stay in the limelight for future career career prospects to sort of be the fallback option if something were to happen to the Trump himself or the campaign, or who knows what else. There are some more cynical people out there who think that she's in there as controlled opposition to muddy up the race, but we can only speculate. We don't know.
We'll be talking about this all the way through till November.